José Protasio Rizal Mercado y Alonso Realanda, or simply José Rizal, is a Filipino nationalist, a writer and a physician who became the national hero of the Philippines. His works advocate for social, political and educational reforms in the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period. He was executed at the age of 35 by the Spanish colonial government for his alleged involvement in the Philippine Revolution against Spain. Hi everyone! Welcome to our channel. Today we are going to look at the life of Dr. José Rizal, from being a bright student to becoming the national hero of the Philippines. So make sure to watch until the end. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Let's begin. Early childhood and student life. José Rizal was born on June 19, 1861 in the town of Calamba in the province of Laguna on the island of Luzon in the Spanish East Indies. He was a seventh child in the family of Francisco Mercado and Teodora Alonso. Both parents were of pure Spanish blood and had a good social standing in their community. Despite this, they had to endure discrimination due to their lowly occupation as farmers. As a young boy, he displayed an exceptional mind, inquisitive nature and strong will. He learned the alphabet at the age of 3 and could read Spanish fluently at age 5. At 8 years old, he could already recite the entire Spanish Constitution. Rizal's early education was primarily at home from his mother and older sister. His father hired private tutors for him as well, including his uncle, Manuel T. Hidalgo, who taught him Latin. At the age of 11, he transferred to a private school run by the Jesuits in the nearby town of Benin, where he continued his studies of humanities, Latin and Greek. In addition to these subjects, he also studied philosophy and theology under the tutelage of his mother. During his stay in Benin, he developed his skills as a writer in both Spanish and Tagalog. In 1872, when he was 11 years old, a typhoon destroyed most of his family's property. His father decided that it would be best for José and his brothers to study in Manila instead of Laguna. So he sent them there with a small amount of money and strict instructions to succeed. While studying in Manila, he stayed with his sister in a boarding house to save money. During his second year in college, he wrote his first poem entitled Intimate Evening. It was a tribute to his mother, who was then sick and later went blind due to glaucoma. That same year, he transferred to the University of Santo Tomas in Manila and finished his degree in philosophy and letters. He then enrolled at the Central University of Madrid in Spain to take medicine. While studying in Spain, he published several poems and short stories in various newspapers. He also joined the Filipino community in Madrid and became an active member of the Filipino Association, a reformist group advocating for political reforms in the Philippines. Rizal's experience in Europe, especially in Spain, made him realize the importance of culture and the power of education in nation building. This inspired him to return to the Philippines in 1887 to apply these lessons to his homeland. Unfortunately, however, upon his arrival, he found that the socio-political climate had not changed much since his departure. Upon his return to the Philippines, Rizal tried his best to help his people through peaceful means. One way he did this was by writing. Through his novels, He criticized the abuses of the friars and the corrupt officials of the Spanish colonial government. His writings were also instrumental in awakening the Filipinos' desire for independence and in preparing them to fight for it. His first novel, Noli Me Tangere, was published in Berlin in 1887. The story is set in a fictional town called San Diego, which is clearly an allegory for the Philippines. The main character, Juan Crisostomo Ibarra, represents Rizal himself. The novel begins with Ibarra returning to his hometown after 7 years of studying abroad. There he plans to marry his childhood sweetheart, Maria Clara, who is a mestiza. Their marriage is opposed by the local parish priest, who harbors ill feelings toward Ibarra. With the support of the gobernador Solo, however, the wedding is allowed to proceed. On the wedding day, the friar exposes Maria Clara's supposed false accusations of her father's supposed involvement in a failed uprising, causing Ibarra to flee for his life. Throughout the novel, Rizal criticizes the abuse of power by the clergy, the corrupt local officials, and the unjust legal system in the Philippines. Noli Me Tangere was immediately successful and was well received by both Filipino and Spanish readers. By the time it was first published, it had already sold out despite its high price. Its impact on the Filipinos was immediate and profound. They identified with the characters and recognized the truths in the situation depicted in the novel. Many Filipinos felt inspired to demand reforms from the Spanish colonial government. Unfortunately, the friars did not appreciate the criticism they were getting from the novel. They saw it as a threat to their power and influence and ordered its banning. This only fueled the Filipinos' anger and determination to fight for their rights. They copied the novel by hand and circulated it throughout the country. Despite the success of Noli Me Tangere, it was just the beginning of Rizal's literary career. He followed it up with another novel, Il Filibusterismo, which was published in Ghent, Belgium in 1891. Like Noli Me Tangere, Il Filibusterismo was also set in a fictional town in the Philippines. The main character, Juan Crisostomo Ibarra, is now known as Simon, who is a rich jeweler living in Manila. The story begins with Simon returning to his hometown to attend the funeral of his friend, Elias, who died saving Simon's life. As Simon mingles with the townspeople, he finds that things have not changed much since his departure. The friars and corrupt officials continue to abuse their power and the people remain oppressed. Simon decides to take matters into his own hands and begins plotting a revolution against the Spanish colonial government. He gathers a group of friends and followers and begins planning acts of sabotage and violence. The novel ends with Simon sacrificing himself to save those he loves. Il Filibusterismo was also well received by Filipino readers, but it was not as successful as Noli Me Tangere. However, it had an even greater impact on the Filipinos because it showed them that there was hope for change, that they could fight back against their oppressors and win. The novel inspired many young Filipinos to join the revolution against Spain. Rizal's novels are considered classics of Filipino literature and are still widely read today. They have been translated into many languages and have been adapted for film and television. Aside from writing novels, José Rizal also wrote poetry and essays. His poems often dealt with themes of love, nature, and patriotism. His essays were usually on social, political and educational reform. For example, one of his essays, The Indolence of the Filipinos, discusses the reasons why the Philippines was so backward at the time. He argued that it was not due to any inherent flaw in the Filipinos, but rather because of the oppressive rule of the Spanish colonial government. He proposed that the best way to solve this problem was to educate the Filipinos and give them more opportunities to participate in government. In his essay on the importance of studying the Tagalog language, he argued that the Tagalog language was just as important and valuable as any other language. He urged Filipinos to study and preserve their language so that it could be used to educate future generations. These essays were also very popular among Filipinos and helped to spread his ideas throughout the country. Exile in Dapitan and death. In the face of mounting evidence that implicated him in the Philippine Revolution, Rizal left the Philippines on July 6, 1892, ostensibly for an extended vacation in Europe. However, he suspected that he might not be allowed to return to the Philippines. He left behind his family and friends, never to see them again. The Spanish authorities exiled him to the remote town of Dapitan in the province of Zamboanga on the island of Mindanao. During his 4 years of exile, Rizal continued to write, and he wrote some of his most famous works during this time. He also engaged in various activities to improve the lives of the people in Dapitan. He built a school, a hospital, and a water system. He also introduced new crops to the area and helped to develop its agricultural industry. Despite his efforts to integrate into the Dapitan community, the Spanish authorities grew suspicious of him and his activities. They began to harass him and his family and eventually decided to send him to a prison in Barcelona, Spain. On May 1896, while awaiting trial, he was informed of the declaration of the Philippine Revolution and the establishment of the Philippine Republic. Although he had no part in the revolution, the Spanish authorities charged him with rebellion and sentenced him to death. He was executed by a firing squad on December 30, 1896 at Bagumbayan, now known as Luneta Park in Manila. Legacy. José Rizal is revered as a national hero of the Philippines. His life and works have inspired generations of Filipinos to fight for their rights and freedom. His novels, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, are considered classics of Filipino literature and are still widely read today. His essays and poems have also had a lasting impact on Filipino culture. After his death, Filipinos continued to demand reforms from the Spanish colonial government. The revolution eventually led to the Philippines' independence from Spain in 1898. The country was then occupied by the United States and was not able to gain full independence until 1946. But despite the setback, Rizal's sacrifice and legacy lived on. Today, José Rizal is celebrated as a national hero of the Philippines. His birthday is a national holiday and schools and streets are named after him. His image appears on the 500 peso bill and a statue of him stands in the center of Manila. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please do share all my videos, Amazing Alet. Please subscribe to my channel. If you want more videos like this, please comment down below what you want to see on my next video. Don't forget to hit the notification bell button to keep you updated. See you in the next video.